guys. Welcome back to the tribe.
Welcome back, everyone.
Thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. We truly appreciate it.
Yes, we do.
Today, we're going to get into a topic about the pandemic. It was something that has affected all of us. And here we are 4 years later, and we want to say our thoughts.
Yeah, we want to give our piece basically on it. What we went through during the pandemic, how it affected us, and how we saw that it affected the world.
But before we get started, let's start with the affirmation of the day.
That's right. The affirmation of the day is, I follow my intuition fearlessly.
I follow my intuition fearlessly.
That's right. And we said that throughout the day to reprogram the subconscious mind. Let's go.
Let's go. Okay, so the pandemic. First off, where were you when the pandemic happened?
I was actually right here when the pandemic happened in New York. I was actually working in Yorktown at a senior citizens facility.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was working there before the right before the pandemic started. They were giving out flu shots. I refused to get the flu shot. And if you didn't get the flu shot, you had to wear a mask. Right? So again, this is before the pandemic. So you had to wear a mask. So I wore a mask throughout the facility and no one else was wearing a mask. Long story short, I got fired because I didn't want to take the flu shot and I was walking around with a mask all day. Not even a month and a half later, the pandemic came full force and everybody had to wear a mask. So the synchronicity of it was really, really good.
Wow. You know, it's so interesting is I was in New York. Okay, so pandemic like fully fledged hit in March.
Yeah.
But I was working for Empire State Development, and we were actually getting news reports about COVID at the time. And, you know, it's going to be a pandemic, but I never took it serious because I was moving to Paris. I ended up moving to Paris. And it's crazy because even all of my coworkers, like, they're just like, be careful. And like, you know, this is going to be something that's very serious. And I never took it serious. Mind you, I was in New York before I went. And then I officially moved to Paris March 3rd. March 3rd. I'll never forget. When I went there, everything was great. I didn't, you know, wasn't affected or anything like that. I said my goodbyes, I said my piece, whatever. And March 15th, like that's when it like full-fledged like hit us to the point where it was like, okay, cool, like, because I was an au pair. And they were like, you know, it doesn't make sense for you to stay here. You can return back to your country if you want to, or, you know, we can figure out like some type of like option. So then that way you're not necessarily out here just trying to figure it out. But yeah, like a drip. But thankfully, a good girlfriend of mine, I ended up staying with her, and I stayed out there for about 3 months, and it was pretty crazy. I mean, we had to have the mask, but also too, they limited us. So for example, like in cars, it can only be 2 people, 1 to 2 people. If it's more than 2 people at the time, you get a ticket. If you're walking outside with a group of people or you're walking outside past a certain time, because there was also curfew, I'd never experienced that before, you would get a ticket. So it was very interesting to experience that in a different country.
Yeah, I think that yeah, that's that because I couldn't even imagine how it was in another country to not really be aware of the language and the nuances and to be in a pandemic. I think the pandemic really, really changed everybody's life.
Yeah.
Right now, it's like it never happened.
Right.
But
blink of an eye.
yeah,
Blink twice.
right. So just to touch on the feeling of the pandemic before, like the nuances, it was a shock to everybody's system. I mean, to me, I'm always the pessimist, always the conspiracy theorist, looking in on it like, wait, why now? What's going on? And why is the entire globe shutting down? To me, it felt like a complete psyop, a complete, like, we're going to use this to see how people react to it, right? And even if I give validity to the virus itself, it wasn't as serious as they made it. It wasn't as serious as shutting the entire economy down, shutting the world down, and the children. So I think that just to wrap it up so we can actually talk about specific things.
Yeah.
To me, the pandemic served a purpose for the elites, nothing for us. Really served the purpose to see how humans react under pressure, like literally like a science experiment.
Right. It really was a science experiment, and It's so crazy that you brought that up because even with those like booster shots, there was places like you couldn't go to because you needed the booster shot. It was kind of like an exclusive thing, like, oh, do you have the shot? Oh, you don't have the shot, so you
You
can't
got the
come
key,
in.
you got the golden ticket,
Yeah,
like,
and it's
right?
like,
You proud of
okay,
that?
I'll wait a couple months and I'll be able to go back to whatever that place is. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
It became a
run.
cult.
Yeah, it became a cult,
Yeah.
and I felt that people just talking about it and just I don't know, like it was just
Yeah.
crazy. And like obviously I was in Paris for 3 months while I was there, and they actually ended up shutting down the actual airport. Like you
Right.
couldn't come in or out of Paris. So I actually had to wait up until May June to actually return back to United States.
Yeah.
And then I had the decision of coming to New York or coming to Miami. I ended up moving to Miami full fledged. And, even that was like you need the booster shot, you need the all of it. You need to wear the mask and
Yeah.
you need to.
It was a lot more lenient in those places.
It
I'll
was
tell you that. If you
lenient
was
for
in New York,
sure.
you'd know, like, yo, this is real, like, lockdown
But
for
that was
real.
Paris. Paris
Yeah.
was real lockdown.
Mhm.
Like you'll get a ticket, and
Yeah.
the tickets were like $250 to $400.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, it was
So
wild.
like, yeah, but we would have, I know, we would have our little parties,
Yeah.
our little get-togethers, and as soon as we hear noise, we just turn it down. Everybody's good. All right.
No, that's legit
Yo, it
movie
was
energy
fun.
right there.
Yo,
Because it's like,
fun,
if you think
fun,
about a movie like the movies that we
fun.
watch, if you think about the movies that we watch, it's like the energy of these movies.
Yeah.
We literally went through that
Yeah.
in real, quote unquote, real life. Like the sheer fear that people were feeling, the
Yeah.
sheer like anguish and anxiety was like off the charts. And if you weren't spiritually sharp, if you wasn't aware with the third eye, like, yo, there's something's going on beyond this, you were going crazy. The
Right.
supermarkets going crazy. Like
Yeah.
things that aren't even like completely a necessity, like
Yeah.
toilet paper. Like
Yeah.
why
Outages.
specifically toilet paper are we
Yeah.
all going after? It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. Shortages, like, and like I said, we were in Paris, like a lot of the supermarkets, they were out of toilet tissue, toilet paper, like any type of house essential that you needed at that time, they were out. Meat, food, like it was just kind of like, and like people were like to the point where they would have to count what items you had. Like it was insane.
Right.
They would have to count how many items you have, so then that way you could give it to the next person.
Yeah.
Because what I think was during that time, because they closed the ports and they closed the airports, nothing was coming in and out. So they only had whatever, they had in their stock.
Right.
And it was crazy to see because it was just like, we are literally living in like a movie. But like the cool thing was, even though it was one reality, we created our own reality. So it wasn't as if, like, I'm not gonna lie, like I had such a pleasant and great experience during the
I
pandemic
had an
because
amazing time.
yeah, because like it was kind of like we were rebellious, like, and all of us, like nobody got the shot, like when we go outside, obviously we would wear the mask or like we would give space, but when we're in our own like home and stuff like that, like it was a vibe because like we had freedom. We did what we wanted.
Right.
So it
And
was
we were together during the tail end
the tail end, yes,
of the pandemic. So
in
that was really
2021.
crazy. Yeah.
But in 2021 in Miami, like it was over at that point. Like
It was
once
over in mad places. Like New
once
York was the only place I was like, ah.
yeah, once like I would say probably once like May, maybe April, May hit, like that was done. Like literally, like
Yeah.
I mean, you still had to, and even with the mask, like they were very lenient because they're just like, if you get it, you get it. If not, not. Like we're not really tripping over like other states. Other states were like, you gotta have it glued to your
Nah, that was
face.
ground zero for
Yeah.
certain states. I feel like certain
Ground
states
zero.
like New York, California, they're like the testing grounds to see how far they can go to get people to go crazy. Like
Yeah, crazy.
And as far as like the children, like we're adults. Like we showed the children no example of courage. Like some
Yeah.
of us did, but for the most part, the adults went panic mode, and the kids are like, "What the hell is going on?" So they're wearing these masks, and they have the lowest rate of death, the lowest rate of death when
Right.
it came to COVID-19. Most of the people that were passing away were really, really old
Yeah,
people
old.
or people that had complications.
Yeah,
This was
already.
a glorified cold, like a higher state of a cold in all reality. And the death rates never really matched up to the panic that they tried to ensue in us. And the kids got it the worst. Like they are psychologically damaged right now. You can tell.
Scarred.
Yeah.
Definitely scarred because, we've never, like my grandparents, my parents, they never experienced something so globally effective to the point where everything is shut down. Like ghost town. Not to bring it back, but when I was in Paris, like because of the pandemic and because you had lockdown and you had curfew, a lot of places were empty. So it was like looking at a stage. Like walking
Literally,
around,
like a freaking stage.
it was beautiful. I
It
have
was
it on
beautiful.
I have it on my Instagram.
It was the same here.
Beautiful.
Even New York City, you wouldn't even
Yeah,
believe how New York City
but
is.
that's how it was with Paris. You wouldn't even believe. Quiet. It was it just looked like a stage. It was
I
beautiful.
loved it, to be honest,
because,
like in hindsight.
yeah, because you get to see the architecture without people.
Yeah, and the silence.
And the silence, the lights, like it just, I don't know, it just gave me movie set. Like I'm on a movie set and I'm just walking around and I got my baguette and I got my wine and I'm just like kind of like just like looking around and seeing it for what it is. But yeah, I took quite a few photos. Yeah. It was insane to see because everybody was so scared and everybody was home. So people weren't really going to work, and those that were going to work, you know, obviously was in the medical fields. Yeah. And even with that was a high risk because you was dealing with all kinds of people, all kinds of things beyond COVID that you could have been really affected by. So yeah. I definitely lost a couple of family members to COVID. Rest in peace to them. But I knew it was always something bigger due to the fact that how United States is and how all of these government officials are. I knew that it was a way to try to slow us down because of our consciousness. We were at a very high consciousness at that rate. It was 2020. So they were like, how could we disrupt people's awareness and awakening, especially the younger minds of the younger generation. So then that way they could be so physically and mentally affected, even though they weren't physically affected.
And also, how can we destroy the economy? Right. How can we destroy the economy faster? Oh, okay, let's shut the economy down completely. Not only are we going to be shutting the economy down completely, we're going to print so much money that you can't believe. We're going to give all of you money, but there's not that many goods to chase with all this money. So there's a bunch of inflation going around, and we're like, oh, we're rich. We got this money. I'm getting money every week. I'm getting money every month. I'm getting money. And then not knowing on the tail end of what we're going through now, it's because of that. It's because of COVID. Why do you think this was their plan, was to print as much money as possible, destabilize the dollar, destabilize all the money around the world. And then once we got out of it, wipe our minds clean like Men in Black. And then we wonder like, why is everything so expensive? Is it because they printed so much money, gave you money with nothing to back it? And now you're, the world, man.
World is a funny place.
Yes, it is a movie.
It's a beautiful place.
It's a beautiful
but it's a funny place.
Yeah. Yeah, but I wanted to touch on the children really quickly before we segue. The kids, it's like, think about yourself as a child. We didn't have to go through, all right, you got to wear a mask to school because there's this global pandemic where you can get sick and die. Like that feeling, the 6 feet, like the social norms that we know as children, being together, being close, talking, seeing people's faces, seeing their facial expressions. These things are important to children, and especially the young children. They had to grow up. That's going to be a core memory of theirs. Yeah. When they look back, like, yo, I had to wear like some real, like, movie Mars. Like, what is going on? Like, this legit harm the children in ways that we have not been able to see. Yes, some professionals probably have because they're in that field, but it has harmed the children. We know it's harmed the adults, but we're the adults. We're supposed to be taking care of the kids. We're supposed to keep our head about us. If we see information that's telling us that this isn't really that bad of a sickness, we should have jumped on it, like some of us did. Like, hey, like, this isn't that bad. Why are they going so hard? It's because most people out there are so in their fear that they allowed their kids to go to school with these masks, allowed their kids to get injections when they didn't need it. You know what I mean? So looking back in hindsight, we had to grow a backbone as human beings.
We really did. And yes, my heart definitely goes out to the children because I couldn't even fathom or imagine like how it would be 7, 8 years old being told I have to wear a mask to give space to the kids and can't really interact as much, or I gotta stay home. I couldn't even fathom.
I forgot about the stay home.
Yeah, I couldn't even fathom.
Where they didn't even go to school.
Yeah, I could that, but that's why. But that's why I said with work. I said a lot of places were empty due to the fact that people stayed home. And even when I was au pairing at the time, like family ended up staying home with the child to the point where I was like, okay, like
you're not even needed.
We don't need you anymore. We could teach ourselves. It was an eye opener in terms of saying like, wow, like this is something that's really, really huge. Again, it's you don't have that expectation. I was supposed to, if that would have never happened, I probably would, I wouldn't say still be in Paris, but I had a visa for 1 year. And then after Paris, I was going to move to Italy for a year. So I would have been on a trajectory of just like moving to different European countries and just being an au pair, which I wouldn't have mind because I get to see different places and that would have built up my portfolio and this, that, there. So I feel like even though the dangers and craziness of the pandemic happening, it changed the course of all of our lives. Things that we probably were looking to do put us in the positions of where we are today. Segway. Okay, so the word of the day is analeptic.
Analeptic.
Yes. Okay, so it basically means boosting the brain's alertness and energy.
Nice.
Yeah. And to put it in a sentence, coffee can have an analeptic effect.
Okay.
Yeah, so to dive back into the pandemic, because it's really funny. It's like nothing ever happened. People are traveling around, and it was a serious thing. And although I didn't take it serious.
Not at all.
I did not take it serious at all.
That's what we could touch on too, just the fact that, hey, look, it was very serious to a lot of people.
To a lot of people, but I thrived. It didn't slow me down. It didn't make me, like, I lived my life. Because I was like, for me, it was more so of like, okay, cool. Like, I have all this free time. I have all this opportunity. What can I really focus and put my attention on? And what would be something that can be helpful and useful to me? And really just take advantage of the fact that I'm getting these checks and I could do however I please without necessarily working for it. So it was fun because I was able to really explore Miami in a different way. It really put me in position of just like thinking differently, thinking clearly. I learn tools everywhere I go, but there are certain tools that I've taken and that I've learned in Miami that really just, I'm not gonna say I'm a Miami girl, but like I think to a certain degree on how some of them think. But definitely with it's amazing to see now, here we are 4 years later, and to see the changes. But it's also good to reflect back on, wow, like this is something that happened and this was something that was detrimental to a lot of different people.
I think that for me, it was a powerful couple of years during the pandemic for me, because it showed me how deeply we create reality on a personal level, because the entire world was thinking a specific way, on a specific timeline, energy-wise and physically. And for me, it wasn't like that because I was creating a different reality in my mind. I wasn't affected by the pandemic the way most people are. They came here, gloves on, mask on, spray Lysol. It's like the level of fear was insane, so they were manifesting. Right. So that level of fear was very powerful. But for me, it was like, just another day. Yeah. I'm in nature's world. I'm a part of nature. None of this can affect me the way that it's affecting other people. Yeah. And with that, I took whatever government stuff that they handed out, I would say stuff, and I used it. I used it as a tool to create the reality that I wanted. And I had an amazing time doing it. Going out in nature, spending time outside while it's quiet because everybody's scared to come outside. Yeah. And built a reality for myself.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it blows my mind. Like, I remember people would be, like, scared to, like, even walk outside. And I'm like, I'm going outside. Yeah. Like, just, like, and then they would go outside with a mask on thinking, like, it was airborne. Because that was another thing, too. It's airborne. Like, you gotta stay inside. I'm just like, is this Mars? Are we in a movie? This is a movie set.
I mean, it was airborne, but the things that you're using is not going to stop. Like, you're using masks that have little holes in them, and you can if it was airborne, it would go through that mask. So we would and even Dr. Fauci and all these people who are the people that were supposed to be leading us told us wear a mask, wear 2 masks, wear 1 mask, wear no mask. It's like, bro, you guys were literally playing a game with me.
And even with the mask, it's so funny because then fashion became a fashion statement. So it was like, oh, okay, like you can wear a mask, but now you're wearing this cute Hello Kitty mask. Or so it for me, it was just more so of like, how can we get people to consume and to buy and to make this really a trend. It became a trend.
I think the mask was symbolic more than anything because they didn't do anything. They were
Silence.
symbols of making you feel like, oh, we're all protecting each other, right? Like, no, it's not. But real quick to touch on the leadership, the governments, they use this as a tool for tyranny. They use this as a tool for communism. They use this as a tool to see if we can control these people. All of the things that were happening during the pandemic were unlawful. They were not constitutional. You being forced to wear a mask to take public transportation, being forced to wear a mask into a store, being forced. Everything was forced. That's not, see, it's like they use the pandemic as a springboard to see if they can control us. And it worked because we said yes. There's no way that any public institution should force you to do anything. I should not be forced to wear a mask, especially my children shouldn't be forced to wear a mask. They can't breathe, and you need to breathe. You need oxygen. A lot of the studies that were done during the pandemic were shunned away, and they were typed away by people. Oh, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. You and most of the doctors came out and said, yo, we don't need to do any of this stuff. None of this stuff needs to happen. What you need to do is build immunity. And if you get it, it will help you build immunity. Most people aren't going to die. We've seen the rates of death, and they were low in comparison to even the flu. And in all reality, it was the older people that were getting
because they already had complications. And like, crazy that you bring that up, but it's like, even during that time of people wearing the masks, there were people who couldn't breathe. There was people, I mean, now to this day that has breathing problems. For me, I looked at the mask as a way of silence. People walking around.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, like you can't really speak or whatever. Even on the airplane, like you had to have a mask on your face. If you didn't, they would revoke you. You couldn't sit on the plane, and then they would cancel. Yeah, then they would cancel your flight. So it was such a serious thing where people were, obviously they had the mask on, and like even like eating, like they're like you have to like have it on as you eat.
You gotta pull it down. And you're like, what?
Yeah, I'm
like, are we?
But to me, I'm like, first off, I'm like, all right, I get it. You know, like, trust me, I understand. But my thing is that if I'm eating, I shouldn't be quickly eat, because that was another thing too. It was like, okay, I gotta quickly eat to put this back on my face. And to me, it was like it caused more health problems than it did solving them, like, the problems. So for me, it was just more so of, and it wasn't like it was clean, like, you know what I like. Like you just saw how dirty people were, if that makes it. Like you got to see how really dirty people were, and how people just, unfortunately, when it comes to cleaning habits, they don't necessarily have the same maybe habits as you, whether it's washing your hands or carrying hand sanitizer, or just being like
people
aware.
Were the cleanest that they've ever were, showing me how dirty they used to be. Because during the pandemic,
maybe that.
Yeah, because the pandemic made people. I've seen people buying things they never bought. Hand sanitizer, actual soap, actually going in the bath, profusely washing their hands when they never washed their hands before. So it's like, it showed me how you really were, and that it takes a pandemic to actually be cleanly. And if you were doing these things in the first place, hygiene, cleanly, you wouldn't worry about a pandemic at all.
Like second nature. Right. But yeah, I mean, that mask.
That mask.
That mask.
I mean, just the energy, like being somebody that's awake and aware. This thing right here, wide open, third eye open, you seeing right through the pandemic, right through the governments, right through the people, and everybody's feeding like they're like, oh, it's like the matrix is real, man.
No, and I'm not gonna lie, that's what I appreciated about Florida the most. That Florida was like, we're not going for that.
We're not with that. It was like a war, like New York versus Florida versus California versus Texas.
We're not going for that.
And it showed you what states are the states that are really about
You don't have to wear a mask. Just have 6 feet. Just obviously be smart. You're an adult. Like, it was like, and I think that's why I will always have like this love for Florida, love for Miami, because
shout out to Ron.
Yeah, because it during that time, it wasn't of a silencing. It wasn't of a you have to be a robot and be and you need the shot to do, like, in New York it was crazy. That's why like you
crazy.
Yeah, you needed a shot to go here. You needed you couldn't it was too much.
And then people band together. They were banding together, like to save the Matrix, to help the Matrix. Like, where's your mask? Put it over your nose. Yeah. I'm like, no, don't tell me what to do.
Some of the workers, they really took their job very, very seriously. And I'm just like, okay, like it's really not that serious. But if you feel like it's serious for you, I'll do it. But I know after I get out of this, I'm going to be in a totally different situation where I don't have to do this. I don't even have to think of this.
And people attacked you at a point where they attacked you online, they attacked you in person, they attacked you all these things. But then when the actual truth came out about COVID, when Dr. Fauci was being freaking grilled and it's showing, hey, there was a Wuhan lab in China that you funded and United States funded, and you were supposed to be the one telling us about the COVID, and then acting as if you had no idea where it came from, knowing goddamn well you had direct ties to the company where the Wuhan virus came from. And then people that attacked you online, they didn't care about that. They just moved on with their life as if they got hit with the Will Smith bloop, Men in Black neuralizer.
All right, let's get back into reality. Like, all right, go to work.
Do you not remember when you were attacking everybody that was telling you that COVID might be a fluke? Do you remember trying to figure out what it was? Then when people were told what it was, you ignored it? Yeah. What a reality.
But also, too, a lot of government officials, especially somebody like Fauci, he was getting paid handsomely. But the gag is, they were all getting paid handsomely.
Right.
And what they did was they just printed it even more for them.
Yep.
So it's kind of like they became like multimillionaires.
The rich got richer for sure.
Yeah, got super rich. While we were just taking like little checks here and there. Yeah, the crumbs. But it being masked with, oh, well, we're giving you guys this. And you guys are the ones that caused this inflation. When it's like, no, it's really the government that caused it. But the pandemic, to me, it's a joke. It's always been a joke. Like I said before, I lived my life during the pandemic. It did not stop me from traveling. It didn't stop me to do nothing.
Yeah, I was.
You know what I mean? Like, I was out because I'm just like, to me, like, you will never get that time back. You will never get those years back. You will never get those moments of building and really creating for yourself.
Do you even remember?
Yeah, like
looking back, it's like, I'm trying to remember. Yeah. I'm trying to get those thoughts. I remember, but you know how when life is happening, life is lifing, and you go back in your mind and you're like, damn, like that was crazy. Like that happened. Like, wow. Like we just moved on and act like nothing happened. Like, it's crazy.
It's crazy. And like, just to see where we are today, and it's not talked about, or it's not brought up enough. And it's like all those people that got those injections and got those shots.
What's happening?
What was in that? Right. What did you put inside yourself?
It's showing. It's showing now. People are doing their research. A lot of people are passing away from, they're not saying it's from that, but it's from that. A lot of people are passing away from it. And when they pass away, they're finding parasites in their blood. They're finding tumors and blood clots. They're finding all this stuff in these people. What was really in those jabs? As a human family, not just me, her, this, that. As a human family, we got to figure out what the hell happened. What happened? And hold these people accountable for what happened during the pandemic. And how many people got these shots?
I felt there was something wrong with those technical shots. Yeah. I just, those boosters, I felt
it's too quick. You know how long it takes to make a vaccine?
Yeah. To perfect like this. Right. So, like, for me, I always, and then when they were like, oh, we're coming out with the second round, I'm like, the second round?
Third round coming, it's like, wait.
I'm like, what is going on?
We got a burger and some fries for you if you get it.
Yeah, I'm like, what? Like, even the advertisement was crazy. And I'm like, yo, you really think I would subject myself? I would rather stay inside or continue to collect those checks and just wait it out. Yeah, wait it out. So then that way, like, now I don't have any shots.
Neither do I.
All I did was wear the mask. And even when I wear the mask, like, I took it off and I gave breathing space and I put it back on and I'm in my sanctuary.
Until an agent came around, I'll have it off. And then when an Agent Smith came around, like, let me put it back on. I don't even want to hear you talk.
The Smiths.
Yeah, bunch of them. Matrix.
Okay, so now we're actually going to get into the phrases of the day. So the first Spanish phrase is Pagarás en efectivo.
Pagarás en efectivo.
Perfecto.
Gracias.
Pagarás en efectivo, which means will you pay with cash?
Will you pay with cash?
Yes. And the Portuguese phrase is Você vai pagar em dinheiro.
Você vai pagar em dinheiro.
Yes, so você vai pagar em dinheiro.
Você vai pagar em dinheiro.
Yes. And that also means will you pay with cash? Also, too, just a quick note, when you look at Portuguese, when you see the D is actually pronounced G.
G.
So instead of saying dinero, which is
Dinheiro.
Spanish, dinero, you'll say dinero. Perfecto.
Dinheiro.
Claro, claro. You'll say, you'll say dinero because all of their D's are G's. Yeah. Fun fact.
I'm back.
Okay, so to close this out, because obviously this has been a little bit more long-winded than, but it's good to touch base and reflect and to really think about, like, wow, where we've come and how far we've come from the pandemic and seeing it from where we are right now. From what I learned from the pandemic is really stick to your core. Really know that at the end of the day, even though all of these things are happening around you, it's what matters with you. If something doesn't feel right, listen to your intuition and live your life. Like, don't put things on pause because you're hearing all of these different things. I often refer back to the pandemic because it was a pivotal moment. It was during the 2020. It was and mind you, 2020 was a very powerful year spiritually. And if you look it up and you see it for what it is, you'll be like, wow, like it, like to the point, like it's like if you guys are willing to do that to trick us all, you're willing to do anything.
Yeah.
Like everything is off limits. So, for me, I kind of laugh back at the pandemic, and I'm really happy that I made the decisions that I made because it allowed me to be where I am today. But most importantly, it allows me to reflect and speak back on during that time and just seeing how far I've come.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. For me, man, I think that it showed me that you have to be spiritually sharp. You have to be aware and wise enough to know when there's a group of humans that are running a psychological operation. They've been running psychological operations, but this is the biggest one yet. It's a global operation to see how humans think. Why? Why? Because human beings are truly waking up on every single level. Consciousness wise, financially, spiritually, socioeconomically, all of these awakenings are happening. And how can control stay in place if the beings that you are trying to control are waking up?
Right.
So you have to keep inserting these distractions, inserting these realities. And COVID was the biggest of all distractions to see how humans would react to fear, to stimulus, to a pandemic.
Yeah.
Would they allow us to get to have full control? Will they allow us to tell them what to do and to stay in the house and don't come outside, don't breathe, will they do it? And for the most part, he failed, humans. Some of us have it.
Yeah.
Some of us made it. But similarly, it's the same thing with the awakening.
Yeah.
Some of us will go through this and have an easy time through this process, and some of us will fight it. And some of us will deny it until it's right in our faces. So pandemic served its purpose in many different ways for all of us. Definitely honor the pandemic besides all that on a spiritual level because it showed me a lot about myself. It showed the world a lot about itself. It really put up the mirror to humans to see what is in their minds.
Yeah. I wanted to thank you guys for just taking the time to listen to us, again, supporting us. We truly appreciate it. We try to respond back to as many comments as possible. Definitely put your comments down below. Any type of suggestions or anything or any rebuttals. We love rebuttals. Anything, just put it down below. We truly appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. Yeah, and rest in peace to those that unfortunately didn't make it through. Again, it's not a joke, and even though I'm smiling through it, it was definitely a hard time. And it was definitely hard to see a lot of people suffer and just like really be in those type of complications and be unfortunately tested like that, But I am happy that Steve and I, most of the
Those that
people
are
that
aware,
we
yeah.
know, didn't take the booster shot, didn't take those techie shots or whatever. They didn't take any of those things, and they just allowed the time to pass. So but
And look
yeah,
look at us all. Like,
yeah.
did any of
Did
us
we
need
need
it?
it?
None of us needed it. None of us needed it.
And we're all in a melting pot. We're all talking, conversing with
We're
each other.
back like nothing happened. And
Like
we had
nothing
times
happened.
when we were at war with each other because of the
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, it's like nothing happened. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Having fights. Oh, well, you don't have it, then you're dangerous.
Can't come over here. You can't come over here.
Yeah. Oh, you're outside.
Can't go to funerals.
Yeah, you're outside. Like, you're not supposed to be outside. This is dangerous. Oh my God,
There's
you're
some
gonna bring
evil human beings behind this, man.
Yeah,
and the universe does its job every time. I ain't even got a trip.
Karma. Always karma. Spiritual laws. But but definitely, this was something. This was an eye opener. It's an awakening. Obviously, we're talking about this 4 years later. We're about to literally enter into 2025. So at that point, it will be going into 5 years. So for us, we just wanted to put a stamp on it. Before we get into the 25, because once the 25 hits, I know, like, it's kind of like 2024 and on was like all old. But like 2025 is like, oh, I'm in year 2025. Like, that's a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a different energy. It's very much Star Trek or these more technologically based.
A new world is being revealed.
Super new world, because it's 2025.
Yeah.